Erev Tov, Rabotai. The Chametz. Yesterday we taught you how to sell the Chametz, right? If you have to do it yourself, we gave you step-by-step instructions how to sell it. Good. Now let's talk a little bit about something interesting, right? Which continues from there, which is, let's say a person, right, wasn't able to sell the Chametz with the rabbi. He forgot, whatever it is, right? And he wakes up in the morning, Wednesday morning, it's Erev Pesach. Right, so now it's already like 9, 10 o'clock, It's too late now to call the rabbi. He cannot take this for you to the bed din anymore. It's too late. He's already there. He was already there. Maybe he already came back home, So in a case like this, what do you do, So let me just explain to you, right, that what happens is like this. There is a sof zman of achilat chametz, right? There's a time that you can eat chametz. And then, right, after that, after the 4th hour, you have another hour to sell the chametz, if you want to get rid of it, right? To burn it, whatever. You have another hour after that. So after the 4th hour, you got to stop eating, right? After the 4th hour of the day. Then you have one more hour to sell it or to burn it, right? To get rid of it, to destroy it.
Around 1 o'clock already?
No. We're talking about the 4th hour from the morning, right?
Morning.
Right. So now, right, let's say Nitzachama is around 6:30, right? So that means you have till like 10:30, right, to eat the chametz, and then you have another hour to sell it, right, or to get rid of it, to destroy it. Once that passes, right, it's already too late. That's it, you cannot do nothing anymore. So what does that mean? Now it's already chatzot. It's the 12th hour already. It's chatzot. What time is chatzot now in our times? About 1 o'clock. So 1 p.m. it's already 12. Chatzot, right? So that's it, right? Exactly. Now there's nothing you can't sell it anymore. It's too late to sell it. So now the only thing you can do is just to burn it. Whatever, right? To get rid of it. There's nothing else you can do. But okay, we're hoping, right, that it won't happen to you something like this, right? You'll be so late like that. But let's say, for instance, right? We finished the tefillah. You went home. You had breakfast. And then you remembered. Oh yeah, I forgot to sell the chametz. So it's too late to call the rabbi, as I said, right? So what do you do now? So very easy. If you really want to get rid of it, your chametz. First of all, you can destroy it. Obviously you can burn it, whatever. But let's say you don't want to burn it, right? You want to keep it. In your closet, whatever. You don't want to get rid of it. So what you can do is, go to your next door neighbor, right? The Puerto Rican guy. Chuk, 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 chuk. Hello, hi, how are you, my friend? ¿Qué pasa, amigo? Right? So tell him, how are you? Right? So you tell him, listen, this chametz, I'm Jewish, we cannot keep this, I got to get rid of it. So you wanna buy it from me, I'll sell it to you. So what you do is, take out your wallet, give him $1, right? As a gift, and he's gonna pay you $1 for your chametz, right? To buy it from you. Give him $1, right? Let him give it back to you, for a purchase. Doesn't matter how much it's worth, $1 is good. So then, right, what happens is, how does he acquire it? Now, the goy, right, you should put the chametz in a bag, right, and let him pick it up. If he picks it up, he acquired it. That's it, right? That's called hagba'ah. Picks it up in the air, right? No, that's it, right? He keeps it, right? You can keep it also in your house. It's true, yeah. Whatever, right? Or he can keep it in his house, whatever you want to do, right? But the point is, now it belongs to him, Once he lifts it up, he acquires it. Or as we said, right, that if it's too heavy for him to lift it up, you've got a lot of chametz, right? Big pile. So then what can he do is pull it, into his house, right? Like pull it in. If it's too heavy for him to lift it. So one or the other, right? Either to lift it up, the bag, or to pull it into his house, into his domain. And that's it. He acquired it, right? So he paid you, and right, that's it. It now belongs to him, so you sold it. That's it. That's all you need, If, let's say, the chametz, right, is not there, let's say, and it's somewhere else, let's say, you have it in a different place, and you want to sell it to your next door neighbor, right? How do you do it? He cannot now pick it up. Where's he going to go, right? Too far. So where is he going to go? So you know how you do it, right? You make a contract, like a small, fax contract, I'm selling my chametz to Mr. Rodriguez, right? Jose Rodriguez, I'm selling him my chametz, right? He's going to sign, you sign, right? Make a contract. Quick, something fast. Simple, right? He pays you $1. You give him, right, the contract, that's it, right? It's done. You're done. It's like a receipt, you're giving him a receipt, yeah, it's yours, So you can do it also that way, if he can't, if the chametz is not there to pick it up. So you can do it like this, if you really need to, there's no other choice. This is what you do, as we said, right? You have until chatzot, until midday, which is 1 o'clock, right? Once that's too late to already sell it. That's it, right? We're done. Okay, fantastic. So hopefully, Bezal Hashem, right, everything will go well. And you won't have to, right? The form is right here, so don't wait, don't procrastinate, I'll do it tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Do it now. Right? Don't let the Satan come in, I'll wait. What are you waiting for? It's right here. Mitzvah ba'di alecha al tachmitzena, right? What does that mean? They say the mitzvah comes to your hand, right? Take it right away. Don't let it slip by you. The rabbis told us, right? Okay, fine. So let's talk a little bit about Sfirat Omer, right? I want to talk about some of the things. It's very important to understand how we do, right? So how does it work? The first night of Passover, right, is going to be Wednesday night. So second night, which is Thursday night, we're going to count the first of the Omer, right? Second night, we start counting. It's going to be Yom Echad, right? That's how it is. And then, right, subsequently, we count, every day one, right? The truth is, it's not in the daytime. We count at the nighttime, right? After the Arvit Tefillah. So we count, and then we do 49 times, right? And then 50th day is already Shavuot. Day number 15. That's the way it's done. Very simple. But the thing is, it has to be done in the right way. So what does that mean? What is the right way? First of all, right, you have to know one thing. What is the proper time for Sfirat Omer? Right? The real proper time, the good time. Tzeta Kochavim. So what does that mean? It's already like 15 minutes after Shkia, at least 20 minutes after Shkia. This is the good time because it's already night, that's it. It's already Laila, right? So that's the thing, So you got to tell the rabbi, like don't make Mincha Arvit too early, Sfirat Omer, because we cannot count the Sfirat Omer before Shkia, it's still daytime. You know what I mean? That's too early.
This is the problem. We can count at home.
Yeah.
We can count here, stay late. That's the problem.
Right. The thing is, that you want everything to go smooth. You know what I mean? What happens is that when you go home, sometimes you forget. You know what I mean? And then, you wake up in the morning. Hey, I forgot. What happened? Shacharti. Yeah, because you didn't do it in the shul. That's why you should have done it in the shul. But the shul was too early. The minyan was too early. That's why Maran, Rabbi, I know what he says. Right? He says like this: the proper thing to do, Sfirat Omer, is to make the mincha right before Shkia. Like 20 minutes before. 20 minutes before. And then, right, do Divrei Torah, 15 minutes, and then you do Arvit. Once you finish Arvit, it's already like 20 minutes, half hour after Shkia. So now it's good time for Sfirat Omer. This is the proper way to do,
When is Shkia right
Now Shkia is 7:20. So you gotta start at 7, right? Maybe Patach Eliyahu, start like 10 minutes before, 6:50, and then do right Mincha at 7 and Lam Natzeach at 7 o'clock, right? That's the proper way to do, If you really want, but the earliest, quarter to 7, you know what I mean? The earliest, that's the earliest. The best is the 7, you know what I mean? But earliest quarter to 7, because if you do 6:30, it's going to be daytime still, for Arvit, it's going to be too early to come to, and then somebody comes, I don't want to count it because I know it's not allowed, so I say, no, thank you. no, spasiba, thank you very much. I don't want to count it. So comes over here some Amaretz, who doesn't know the halacha, and he counts it, and does the, bracha lebatala. No good, I mean, it's not proper like this, you know what I mean? You got to do everything the proper thing, in the proper way, Sfirat Omer, after Shavuot, you can make Arvit early, 7 o'clock, no problem, like we do in the summer. But doing Sfirat Omer has to be a little bit later, right before Shkia. That's the proper thing to do, So, Bezat Hashem, don't worry, your food won't get cold, you'll eat dinner, no, you'll be okay, you'll be all right.
You gotta talk to Rabbi.
Yeah, gotta tell him, what can I do, right? We all have to tell him, so he understands. Okay, because last year, it happened several times, we were too early, you know what I mean? And it was too early to say Sfirat Omer, so everybody went home, every. I don't know why. What's the big rush? I don't know what it is. Okay, whatever. Anyway, that's the way it should be. So the truth is, that before Shkia, there's a time after Shkia and between Tzedek Kochavim, right? That time, which is called Ben Hashmashot. It's like getting dark, but it's not dark yet. It's like dusk, like not dusk yet. It's like twilight. That's what we call it in English. Twilight. Ben Hashmashot. So that time you can count, b'diavad, kind of like b'diavad a little bit, you can count. But before Shkia, no, for sure, right? You cannot count. You know what I mean? It's a bracha lavatala, it's no good. You have to count again if you did it before Shkia. You got to count again because you didn't fulfill your obligation. You know? But if it's after Shkia, okay, then you have what to rely on, you know? It's okay. So why is that? Because there is a machloket, you know, in the poskim, whether in our times, you know, where does it say, by the way, in the Torah? Does it say in the Torah to count the Omer? In the Chumash? It says, right? Oh, it says, yeah. It says. So it's from the Torah, this mitzvah. I mean, it's not from the rabbis. It's from the Torah, to count the Omer. But the thing is, you know, there are poskim who say that nowadays, you know, it's from the rabbis. It's only from the Torah when you have all, you know, of Am Yisrael, you know, in the Eretz Israel and the Shvatim and right, everything, but you know, Bet HaMikdash and all those things. That's when it's from the Torah. But now, right, since we're in the Galut, it's only the Rabbanan, it's from the rabbis, you know. So that's why we can be a little bit more lenient, since it's rabbinical in our times, according to the most poskim. So therefore, you know, after Shkia, okay, you can count, but before Shkia, no, we don't allow, right? Nobody allows that. So yeah, you gotta be careful with that. So as we said, right, you count every time one. Now here's the thing, right? What about if you forgot, right? It happens all the time. You know, we always forget. Right? Now we have, you know, these reminders. You know, they have this app now. You know, on your phone, right? The app reminds you to count every day. You know, something like that, right? There's all kinds of things now they made. You know, to remind you to count the Omer. You know, every day. So you can do all kinds of things. You know, there's all kinds of services. I think there's also a service they call you. You know, to remind you. All kinds of things going on like that. You know, it's a computer. You know, the computer calls you, right? It's you know, automatic. That's something like that, right? There's all kinds of things, you know, to remind you to count the Omer. You know, so sometimes we do forget. So the rule is like this, you know, if you forgot to say, you know, after Avit, you have all night to say. You know, you can say all night with a bracha, you know, everything, no problem, right? But once you have Amud HaShachar, right, which is already dawn, it's already daytime now. You know what I mean? So now it's too late. You cannot count anymore, right? It's too late. So what do you do now, right? What's the plan? You know, is there a way to make it up? Is there a way to, you know, to fix the problem? So the rule is like this, you know, if you forgot during the night and it became already morning, too late. So what you do is, you know, in that day, you count without a bracha. You know, you just say, right, Hayom Yom, right, Echad LeOmer, right, without a bracha. Why without a bracha? Because it's a safek, you know. There are some opinions that say that you cannot count in the daytime. So since it's a safek, it's a doubt, right? We're not sure if you can count in the daytime, so therefore we count without a bracha. And then the next night, you count the second day, right? Shnei Yamim LeOmer, right? So that one you can already count with a bracha. Why? Because you're counting at the right time.
Usually before Ashereh, during the Shacharit, Shaliach usually repeats what day.
Absolutely, that's a good minhag, you know. But as Sfardim, we have this minhag, you know, that we count the Omer in the morning in Shachrit, you know. So if somebody forgot, that reminds him, you know, to say now, right?
Without bracha, right?
Without bracha, right? Exactly, yeah. Because you cannot say, as we said, right, in the daytime, you cannot say with a bracha.
I forgot yesterday. Can I repeat with him?
So what you do is, as we said, right, you say it during the day, you know, without a bracha, and then next night you can say with a bracha. Right? Continue with a bracha every night. So why is that? The daytime, you know, is one safek, one doubt, right? One bapros. But the night is double doubt, right? Sfek sfeka. So since it's a sfek sfeka, it's a double doubt. So we allow you to count with a bracha, you know? It's already two doubts.
Some people say if you missed it, you already don't have to count.
Yeah, that's a mistake. I don't know who says this, but whoever told you that he doesn't know the halacha so good. He doesn't know so good the halacha. You have to still count, you know, no matter what. But the thing is like this, right? Let's say you missed now, not only the night you missed, you also missed the day. You know, you forgot also in the daytime. You talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about that. Okay, that's a little bit different. So now here's the thing, right? If he missed the night and he also missed the day, so now what does he do? Right? So now the rule is, you know, every night you have to count without a bracha. You cannot say the bracha anymore. You know, you count without a bracha. Why? Because it's a safek whether, you know, you're allowed to count anymore. As Boris said, right? There are some opinions that say if you missed the whole day, you know, day and night, you cannot count anymore. That's it, right? You're finished. Why is that? Because they hold that all the 49 days, it's like one big mitzvah. So if you miss one part, that's it, the whole mitzvah is shot. There's another opinion that says, no, every night is a separate mitzvah, each one is separate. So according to that opinion, you are allowed to count. So therefore, since it's a doubt, since it's a safek, what we do is we count without a bracha, every night. So what you should do is like this, if you missed the whole night and day, right, like this, as we said, and now it's the next night already, so you cannot make a bracha. So what you do is listen to the bracha of the chazan, right, and say amen. That's the best you can do. And then count, because you cannot say the bracha. So you rely on the bracha of the chazan. That's the way you do it. There is an opinion like this. Moshe Feinstein, he writes something interesting. He says that, let's say, right, the chazan, he missed, the Sfirat Omer, one day, one night. So now he has to go up there, right? And, if he doesn't count with the bracha, everybody's going to be looking at him like, why don't you say the bracha? What's wrong with you? They don't know that he missed the whole day. They don't know, right? So it's going to embarrass him, to say every night without a bracha. Because, he missed it, right? So it's going to be, disgrace for him, every night, no bracha. Everybody's looking at him. What happened to you? What happened? Why aren't you saying bracha? So it causes him shame, embarrassment. So Moshe Feinstein says, in a case like that, he says the chazan, he can count with a bracha. Why? Because it causes him shame, and also, he's doing it for the tzibur, for the community, not only for himself. So in a case like that, it says Moshe Feinstein, he can count with a bracha. Only the chazan though, not everybody else. The truth is, the poskim say, who should really count the Omer? Should it be the chazan or the rabbi? Who should count? So the truth is, that they say the proper thing to do is that the chacham, should count the bracha, this Omer, not really the chazan. If the chazan is just a regular guy, he's amaretz, he's not a big chacham. But there's here somebody who's Tamid Chacham, he should count the Tamid Chacham. So why is that? Because, he knows how to do better, than the Chazan. Chazan doesn't know so good these things. So since the Chacham knows the laws, he knows the halachot, he knows how to do, so we give him the kavod, of counting the Omer, and not really the Chazan so much. Whatever, it's no big deal, if the Chazan did it, it's no big deal, I'm not saying it's a disaster, don't get me wrong, but that's a minhag, that the rabbi should count it. Okay. Anyway, right, as we said, so Rav Moshe Feinstein says like that, but Maran Rav Ovadia B'Shalom, he doesn't agree with this, He says that if the chazan or the rabbi, they missed one day, and now they cannot count, so he says no, they shouldn't count with the bracha, he doesn't agree with this, Rav Moshe Feinstein, that he says he can count with the bracha. He says no, let them just count like everybody else, without a bracha, what can we do, right? So that means that, what should they do, if he missed, the Sfirat Omer, one day, one night, the rabbi or the chazan, he missed, he cannot count anymore with the bracha, so what should he do? Let somebody else, pray, right? And let him do, let him do the Sfirat Omer, Because if he goes up every night, he doesn't know, right? He cannot make a bracha, he's going to be embarrassed, it's going to be ashamed like that, so it's a disgrace, it doesn't look good. So if that happens, let somebody else do it, send up somebody else, let him be the chazan, right? And take care of it like that, right? So that's the way it should be. So I just want to tell you, one more thing, we'll stop here. We call it Bechila? Bezat Hashem. So the thing is like this, right? That I want to tell you that counting the Omer is a very, very important thing. It's a very, very crucial. So what does that mean? It says the Zohar Kadosh, if you didn't read the Omer, right, and you didn't say the Omer every day, and you went to Shavuot, right, Chag Shavuot, and you missed even one day, the Zohar Kadosh says he's not tahor, he's not pure. This person, he's not ready to receive the Torah. You know what I mean? So it's a very crucial thing, to count the Omer. It really makes you ready for Kabbalat Torah, to receive the Torah, to come to the Kedusha of the Shavuot. If you missed, you missed the train, as they say, right? You're not there, you're not there, so you got a problem, So says the Zohar Kadosh, this guy, he didn't do his job, for this year. He messed it up, He didn't reach the level that he was supposed to reach. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen. רבי יחנן, כשאומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעוזק את ישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.